Hello again. I'm Dan McTeague, President of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Once again, here to discuss issues of energy that matter to you in terms of our ongoing fight to ensure that Canadians can benefit from affordable energy, which, of course, is at the source and at the core of all things that we take for granted in this country. I'm getting a lot of interest from many of you on what the clean fuel standard is. What we dubbed 3 years ago as the second carbon tax, now being referred to as the second carbon tax, is really a two-step approach by the federal government as far as its move to try to force companies to reduce emissions in the belief that somehow that will change the climate. The reality is that it will have neither of those effects, but it will, of course, increase the cost of living on each and every one of you with very little, if anything, to show for. Simply put, the Clean Fuel Standard has had two iterations. The first one in 2019, when the federal government broke its promise to stay at no more than $50 a ton. It said then it would move to $170 a ton. They then introduced a series of regulations aimed mostly at natural gas, propane, oil, and diesel and aviation fuel, which would require those who create those products to reduce emissions by 15%. To do that, would require a significant shift in the way in which manufacturing takes place, and those who emit provide the ability to reach those targets. It was found that in the first iteration, as we had proved here through our work with LFX and Associates and Professors Ross McKittrick and Chita Pepiteo, that we were able to find that for every dollar of so-called environmental benefit, there would actually be $6 lost. And so for that reason, the federal government had not done its due diligence, realized that it had done something wrong. And of course, the four Atlantic premiers and provinces opposed this, as it would be very painful to those on lesser income. A second carbon tax would have a significant economic impact on everybody, slow down the Canadian economy. So the federal government went back and did a second version. And of course, after the federal election, introduced that. And as of July 1st, the second one is implemented. This will only apply to liquids, so things like diesel, gasoline, and of course, aviation fuel, but it still has the same effect. Why? Well, as we pointed out in our second round with LFX and Associates, the peer-reviewed paper that we put forward, it would in fact stunt the growth of the Canadian economy by about 1%. We would see dislocation of some 90,000 jobs. It would not only affect GDP, but it would simply export our emissions to other countries like the United States, because we're going to be importing more ethanol to meet part of that standard. It would also mean, with Canada's increased population, that there would be no reduction in emissions. All those things were true then in September of 2022, and the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that just a week and a half ago. So what does it really mean for you as a consumer? What does it mean for you as a Canadian? Well, starting on July 1st, it will not be a tax increase. I really want to emphasize that. You will not see an increase in your taxes. You already pay 14.31 cents a litre. You'll be heading to 42 cents a litre by 2030 for the first carbon tax. The second carbon tax for the first 2 years will mean an increase in the use of ethanol in fuel. That means, of course, that while you will not have a direct tax, the indirect tax will be there. Ethanol doesn't burn like gasoline. So what you're going to find is that gasoline mileage on your vehicles will be less. You're probably going to lose about 5 to 10% of your vehicle efficiency. Watch out if you have a turbo. Watch out if your vehicle needs premium gasoline. Watch out, of course, if you have smaller 2-stroke and 4-stroke smaller engines. They're very sensitive to the amount of ethanol that is there. They tend not to be the same product. If you look, when we mix ethanol, they're kept separate. Ethanol, it can corrode, and over time, it retains a lot more water, which means, of course, left in a tank for an extended period of time could mean trouble for the motor down the road. That aside, for the first 2 years, Canadians can expect that they're going to see the price muted on the clean fuel standard. But what they will notice is a higher price for things like food. Why? Crops grown, corn in particular, to create ethanol, whether it's in Canada or the United States, means that other crops will be sacrificed, which means, of course, not only will emissions grow, so will the cost of food, all products that are based on corn and other agricultural products that we take for granted. By 2025, however, we estimate that between 17 and 30 cents a litre will be added because of the second carbon tax. And that's because at that point, refiners are going to have to go to the carbon credit market, because adding ethanol to 15% in your gas tank on every liter will not cut it. The other 7.5% cut in that 15% cut emissions Well, that's going to have to come with a big fat increase that'll cost you and I. If you have any doubt as to the federal government's intention to drive you out of affordability and get you out of your vehicles and drive up the cost of living, make no mistake, 2 carbon taxes will have that effect. And we're not even talking about emissions caps. We're not even talking about the fact that blocking pipelines in this country and bringing in all sorts of regulations has really stymied investments in this country, the likes of which has damaged the value of the Canadian dollar. We no longer have the petroloonie as a result of the federal Liberal NDP coalition's green policy. So if you think you can afford them, fantastic. If you think you're having trouble making ends meet and you're noticing, like everybody else, inflation is on the rise, you can thank the Trudeau government, not just for its first carbon tax, but its second carbon tax, which will accomplish absolutely nothing except drive you and I into the ground financially. That's it for this segment. I want to talk to you about a few more things. Keep tuning in. And folks, we don't run on a shoestring budget. We, in fact, have no budget, but from time to time, we do ask for your help. Please feel free to donate to Canadians for Affordable Energy and for our work. Please come to our site, affordableenergy.ca. You'll get the latest on where our thinking is at and what we plan to do down the road. Thanks so much.